AskReddit, what is a movie you find terrible, but critics seem to love? Girl on the third floor, I don't understand how this giant piece of crap has 81% on Rotten Tomatoes. Sometimes B-horror movies seem to only get reviews from die-hard horror fanatics and this pushes their scores way up. For comparison, Cats had 302 reviews, and Endgame had 505. Waterworld, 1995. Oh wait, other way around. Ha ha ha. Same. Love this piece of hit film. SpongeBob, Sponge out of water, freaking 81% Rotten Tomatoes score with a 54% audience score. If you want a SpongeBob movie, watch the original 2005 movie. Infinitely better. There's some sad person out there who's gonna use this as a movie recommendation thread. To be honest, I might check out Girl on the Third Floor and Ad Astra just because I've never seen them and quarantine's got me going bonkers. Argo. Not because it was necessarily a badly made movie, but because it willfully rewrote real world history to make America look like the sole heroes. The British and New Zealand embassies did not turn the American embassy workers away. The British embassy took them in, at great risk mind you, but transferred them to the Canadian embassy since they could more easily pass for Canadians, and the British embassy was in a dangerous location already. The New Zealand embassy took similar risks. The actual Americans who were rescued made extensive comments at the time stating displeasure over how the actual situation was depicted, since it was, well, bullshit. And don't get me started on U-571. At least that movie was the box office bomb it deserved to be, since it straight up replaced the British Navy who recovered the Enigma machine with the US Navy. They got so much heat over it that they just lazily shoved a disclaimer at the end saying pretty much actually it was the British Navy who captured the machine. But oh well, to save face. The bloody US wasn't even in the war when the events depicted happened. They freely admit that they could only get film financed if it was the US Navy and not the British Navy. Shakespeare in Love. Yes, this. And why did it win an Academy Award over Saving Private Ryan and Life is Beautiful? Not me, but my dad. He absolutely hates Snowpiercer, but it's got fantastic ratings and a great director. Even after re-watching, he still just doesn't get into it. I'll admit the first time I watched it with him, I wasn't huge on it either, but I've re-watched it many times and it's one of my favorite films now. Also known as Willy Wonka and the Apocalypse Train. My absolute favorite fan theory. Crash. The Best Picture Oscar winner, for those asking. The one with Holly Hunter and James Spader. Freak, that was terrible. The one with Thandie Newton and Don Cheadle. Freak, that was terrible. Crash. Like, I challenge you to write a more pandering movie. But impossible character arcs and junior high level storytelling is apparently Oscar worthy if you spend enough money on bankable actors. I had an assignment back in school to watch Crash. I downloaded the movie and started watching. About 45 minutes in, when James Spader started doing weird lovemaking things, I realized that wasn't the right movie. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. In my opinion, I feel Tom Hanks didn't accurately portray Fred Rogers at all. Rogers was in no way as eccentric as the persona portrayed by Hanks in the film, but was his own breed of human. The Rogers character portrayed by Hanks, especially with the portrayal of violence in a scene of the film set during a live broadcast of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, was in no way the real Mr. Rogers. The documentary Won't You Be My Neighbor was a far better insight into the life of Rogers. I thought it was an okay movie, but I agree that Won't You Be My Neighbor is superior. Part of the problem I had was that Tom Hanks is too recognizable, so it just feels like Tom Hanks dressing up in Fred Rogers clothes. I also felt like the focus on the guy was kind of ham-handed. I was hoping more for a film that made him Mr. Rogers more personable, while the film seemed to try to push hard on defying him in a way. Won't You Be My Neighbor did a much better job making him a well-rounded person. The Lion King remake. The CGI is absolutely gorgeous, I can't deny that. But going to hyper-realistic lions made the movie lose all of the charm the original had. There's a complete disconnect between the emotions the voice actors were going for and what the lions were showing due to the fact that real cats or lions don't have a wide range of facial expressions to portray human emotions with. Other changes were made, Some were good, like fixing some plot holes, but for the most part the changes were bad. Removal of songs, toned down the magic, Beyonce butchering music. Shape of Water honestly might have been a good movie to address the way humans treat creatures, but they freaked it up by having them fall in love. Like what the actual freak? Yes, Freaking Nemo. Great movie. American Hustle. One of the most boring movies I have ever watched. Try Kung Fu Hustle instead. The Cantonese subtitles make it. Bohemian Rhapsody. I love Queen, but this movie sucks. Rocket Man was freaking amazing. Absolutely agree, and I feel it was more a tribute to Freddie Mercury than an actual accurate portrayal, and with Brian May heavily involved, not surprising. I can feel a tad more gentle about it knowing that they just wanted to honor Freddie Mercury, but I was pretty disappointed in it. On the other hand, Elton John was also very involved in Rocket Man and I loved his defense at the R rating. I didn't leave a PG life. Shawshank Redemption. Nah, I'm kidding. That movie is amazing. You had me all riled up for a counter-attack before I read your second sentence, lol. Ralph Breaks the Internet. A disappointing sequel. This one crushed me because I absolutely love Wreck-It Ralph. The sequel was just a hot mess with too many references crammed in to appeal to the kids. A Star Is Born. I just don't get the hype. Almost no conflict in her rise to stardom and the ending seemed so predictable the closer I came to it that I had a hard time even finishing it. It was just boring. It seems like one of those movies that anyone who's in Hollywood or has experience with any kind of stardom would enjoy romantically, but as a layman the rest of us just aren't as invested. Black Panther. I'm a fan of the Marvel movies, and like pretty much all of them, though I'm very willing to admit a handful of them are infuriatingly mediocre, but Black Panther was pretty overhyped. Everything political about it aside, it just kinda sucked to see Marvel go back to the bad guy is the bad version of the hero formula from earlier movies. Killmonger was pretty freaking sick though. Happy Feet. What in the actual F? It was cute when the lead penguin was little, but then he outgrew the cute. I genuinely think that the movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock and George Clooney is one of the worst movies that has ever hit the big screen. In IMAX 3D it's a very effective horror movie. Exactly. I saw this in IMAX 3D, and it was one of the most stressful movie going experiences I've ever had. Renting it at home would be super boring though. The Irishman. Same gangster movie with octogenarian actor that we've seen 1,000 times before. But critics seem to eat that stuff up. I think the movie was overrated for sure with people calling it a masterpiece, but I do think it's unfair to say it's the same old gangster movie. It's notably not that actually. It's not the crash burn movie we've seen in the past with Casino and Goodfellas, Scarface etc. It's not the glamorous Godfather style movie either. I heard it said that it's an old guy movie. I think that's fair, even though I don't agree it makes it bad necessarily. It's just clearly not made with the same energy and perspective as your average gangster movie. It's very much not the same. It's very decidedly different in a way that some people loved, but quite a few, understandably, couldn't connect with. What The Irishman does is it shows the cold reality of being a gangster, and I don't mean cold reality in the way that other movies portray it, where you live like a king, loving gorgeous women daily, but you gotta kill people you don't know or care about sometimes, oftentimes in glorious and legendary fashion. That's not cold reality. That's exactly what they signed up for. No, it's not money, power, and respect forever. That goes away fast. If you don't violently die young, then the rest of the lifestyle is pathetic. Almost every gangster movie up till now only shows the thrilling high-stakes nature of gangster life. They don't show what happens after, if you ever live that long. All their friends are dead, and they die alone serving life sentences in a prison with no family that is alive, or caring enough to visit them, suffering so badly from Parkinson's, that they can barely lift their food to their toothless mouth. They are not feared, they are not respected, they are hated for their actions, and pitied for their state. Their strut has lost its swagger, and they chatter to pieces, if they so much as bump their hip. Never has a movie, besides Synecdoche, New York, made me so fearful of growing old. Titanic. I just don't get it. Most of the special effects are amazing. Some shots have too much of that 90s CGI look, but the actual movie was an extremely generic love story with nothing new. Well, the real star of the show was the boat. The love story was really to just get us on board, and to the sinking. People mentioning a bunch of popular 2000s and 2010s movies make me worried about my opinion. A Clockwork Orange. I've read the book and watched the movie. I hated both. La La Land. Sorry mate, but La La Land freaking slaps. It's a Hollywood movie without a Hollywood ending, and I freaking love it. Dunkirk. I really wanted to like it, but I found the movie to be an absolute snooze fest. Like Gravity, I think it really worked on the big screen, but not on the smaller screen. I came out of the film a bit traumatized. It felt extremely tense throughout, in my opinion. Gravity is one of the worst movies I have ever seen, because of its complete disregard of physics. It spit in Newton's face and pooped in his cereal. Bullock was great though. I'm a physicist and I thoroughly enjoyed Gravity. Yes, it gets physics wrong in some places, but in my opinion it does other things really well. It's a movie, not a scientific paper. To each their own, though. I really didn't understand the love for A Quiet Place. It relied overwhelmingly on cheap jump scares. Ironically, the movie that everyone seemed to hate, Bird Box, was basically what I thought A Quiet Place should have been. Much more dread and horror, with minimal jump scares. Spoiler, the baby storyline took me out of the movie. You can't have a baby in this universe. Babies cry all the time for no reason. If you keep your baby in a soundproof box or artificially asleep all the time, that's going to severely hinder its development to the point where the child will not be able to communicate normally. Having a baby in the quiet place pretty much guarantees a child with severe disabilities if that child doesn't kill your entire family just by crying. For me, it's definitely The Last Jedi. It has 90 on Rotten Tomatoes, but I'd say it's one of my least favorite movies of all time. I agree. While some of it is really good, the pacing of it is just so weird. Plus that whole casino plot with Finn and Rose is completely useless and seems very out of place. The whole storyline on the ship is garbage and extremely boring. The only good part of the movie really are the interactions between Rey and Kylo. Pitch Perfect. Some of my friends made me watch that monstrosity. It has an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. Someone is salty. Man, Lincoln was so freaking boring. My favorite president, so I thought this will be cool. I was wrong. And Lincoln Vampire Hunter ruled though. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, hit like, get subscribed, and tell us a movie you find terrible, but critics seem to love, in the comment section, and support the original writers with upvotes, links in the description box.